It's nearly 2 years since Israel began its war on Gaza on October 7, 2023, after terrorist strikes by Hamas inside Israel killed 1,200 people, with hundreds more taken hostage by the group. Now, Israel has killed more than 64,000 people in Gaza. A disproportionate number of the killed are children and women. Israel has blocked aid convoys to Gaza, denying food to people. It has bombed hospitals. The war has long ceased to be an act of self-defense against Hamas, which is what which is what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said when Israel began bombing Gaza 711 days ago. Not only are the casualties in Gaza being now condemned around the world as a genocide, the war has also expanded beyond Gaza. What does Israel's continuing war mean for the fragile security of the West Asian region? What does it mean for Palestinian statehood, recognized now by 147 countries in the world? Where does India stand in all this? This is Latitude at Frontline, and I will be discussing these questions with Dr. Waiel Awwad. He is a senior journalist from Syria. He has been covering South Asia from New Delhi, where he's based. He's been based in New Delhi for over 3 decades. Welcome to Latitude, Dr. Waiel.
Thank you for having me.
Let's begin with the latest, Dr. Waiel. The U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who was on a visit to Israel after the Israeli bombing in Qatar, and Qatar is also a U.S. ally, has said that a diplomatic end to the war is no longer possible. He has said that Hamas needs to cease to exist as an armed element that can threaten the peace and the security of the Middle East. What does this mean? Will there be no more negotiations? Has Israel now got a carte blanche to do what it wants in Gaza, elsewhere in Palestine, across the region?
Thank you for having me. And I think the introduction you made, it is perfectly all right to start the debate. But let me go a little back down on the history, because the killing of 65,000 Palestinians is just a part of the 750,000 Palestinians lost their life since 1948 with the massacre, repeated massacre, according to UN agencies and all the human rights groups, which have listed and registered all these killing over the years with 1948 Nakba, or the catastrophe on the Palestinian, continued till date. So what we are witnessing currently after the 7th of October 2023 is the second Nakba or catastrophe against the Palestinian population, which has not been completed because the Israeli have not accomplished their objective of annihilating the whole of Palestine. And there's no question of a Palestinian state, which have been stated many times by the Prime Minister himself, Netanyahu, and repeatedly by most of his ministers, right-wing ministers, who have already now claiming and publicly, proudly saying that Israel is the greater Israel currently now is from Sinai to the Euphrates, which is including the Sinai Peninsula, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Iraq, 1/3 of Saudi Arabia, and also Palestine, of course. So therefore, it's a continuous war. They have been doing it in the Middle East, systematically taking out the Palestinian. What's happening in Gaza right now is a complete genocide, where the whole world is witnessing. It's no more Hamas, by the way. Hamas is a faction of the Palestinian resistance to Israeli occupation. And let's put it this way. Why I'm saying so? Because 75% of Gaza people, actually, if you look at their history, 2.6 million Palestinians lived in the most concentrated and that territory in the world called Gaza Strip, have been survivors of the previous genocide committed against the Palestinians by the Israeli settlers, by the British, who have taken the land and helped the Israeli terrorist organization to take the whole of Palestine. So now, there's a total destruction, devastation, and is enhancing the destruction of Gaza City by all means of bombs, the schools, universities, hospitals, nothing left. So there will be unlivable. It will not be inhabitant city for anybody in the world. Nor a Palestinian can grow a grass or any kind of food he can eat from the ground, nor he can drink water. So therefore, make it impossible for the Palestinian to survive. So there are only two choices for the Palestinian in Gaza: either to leave, expel them out where there is no existence, or die. And that is what Netanyahu plan is now. Now, the second part of it, which is the West Bank, which is people talk of Gaza because of Hamas. It is the reason why. What's going on in Gaza, in West Bank? There are more than 12,000 Palestinians have been in jail. More than 55 kids have been killed. More than 450 people have been killed ever since the 2023. So what Israel is doing, the settlers are attacking the Palestinian aboriginal of the land. They're annexing their land. They're now going to declare West Bank as a part of greater Israel, where there will be no Palestinians.
There's another plan right now that Netanyahu has signed off on to increase the settlement in East Jerusalem, which is very dear to the Palestinians, basically because for religious reasons. And he's going to build 3,000 new homes there. He's planning to increase the number of settlers, as you said. So in the light of all this, where is it all heading? I mean, 147 countries have said that they recognize the state of Palestine. So it's not going to make a difference to anything?
Well, it does make a difference, Nirupama. If 8 billions of the population of the world are telling the rest of the countries, the United States and Israel, 15 million population all over the world, that we are right and you are wrong. Who wanted to believe a 15 million only and leave apart the 8 billion people who are saying in one word that Palestinians have the right of existence in their own homeland? So therefore, Israel cannot continue this bombardment, continue the genocide on the Palestinians without giving the Palestinian a viable state. 1992, when we went to Madrid conference with all the Arab countries after the liberation of Kuwait by the Americans, where they cheated us, and they said Kuwait have been liberated because Saddam Hussein occupied it. And so we said, what about Palestine? They say, okay, fair enough. Palestine also will go for the negotiation. So when we went for the negotiation, 1992, Ishaq Shamir was the prime minister of Israel. He said, we will negotiate for the sake of negotiation. There's no question of Palestinian state. So ever since the Palestinians signed the Oslo agreement with Israel, which was supposed to be viable, 5 years viable state of Palestine to be declared, and then suddenly the Netanyahu come and tear up the Oslo agreement, throw it in the dustbin, say there is no question of any Palestinian state, and they kill Ishaq Rabin, who signed the deal with Yasser Arafat. So the 75% now in the right-wing extremists are in the Israeli society who are not willing to have a peace with the Palestinian. And the survivor of Netanyahu actually depend on two issues. One is the continuity of the war. That's why he's attacking more than 7 capitals till now, ever since the 2023. And secondly, he has also wanted to make sure that his right-wing parties, which is giving him survival of his government, continue their annihilation of the West Bank, expansion of the settlement, so they can go for an election and they gain popularity. So that is the crux of the problem. The world has to recognize that there is a way of putting pressure on Israel to end this genocide. What happened in the OIC in Qatar? The people were giving solidarity to Qatar, but did anybody talk of the Palestinian issue? Yes, they talk. They talk of two-state solution. We are ready to normalize relation with Israel if you provided the Palestinians get their right of existence. But what we are witnessing currently is an absolutely opposite of what the Israelis are planning, and they will not listen to the voice of the world about it. I think the pressure from the international community, the flotillas ships, which is more than 40 countries, people are participating to break the siege of Gaza. Now, I think these are messages to the international community. It's a high time that there should be a pressure on the United States and on Israel, because both of them are internationally been isolated.
But both the United States and Israel have shown that they are not going to be subject to any pressure. I mean, take Israel, for instance, the bombing in Qatar, for instance. What we know of that is that Hamas was negotiating a ceasefire agreement with the help of Qatar, and it was something that was initiated by the United States, and Israel has described it as an operational opportunity to take out the very Hamas leaders who were in the process of discussing the ceasefire agreement. So when you talk about pressure from the world, you see that the people that neither Israel nor the US care, because President Donald Trump has issued a statement which is typically ambiguous, a very ambiguous statement. He has said, in fact, let me read that out to you, that unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and close ally of the United States that is working very hard and bravely taking risks with us to broker peace, does not advance Israel or America's goals. However, eliminating Hamas, who have profited off the misery of those living in Gaza, is a worthy goal. So, he says something and he withdraws it in the same breath. So how is the world expected to put more pressure on these two actors, who are basically the people that the entities that can actually bring peace to the Middle East?
I think you hammered the nail correctly by saying so, because I think President Trump and Rubio are more Zionists than the Zionists themselves. I think they are already implementing Israel's objective in the region, and that's why I called it phase two of the attack. Imagine the President Trump that comes to the Gulf country, carries with him back to America $4.5 trillion, because they said and he gave them a promise that he would protect the GCC from any attack, and he was only fingering or pointing out toward Iran. That's the dangers coming to Iran. But when it comes to Israel and attacking a nation where the United States, having the largest military base in West Asia, the second largest in the world, and funded by Qatar, more than $10 billion Qatar is spending, and even the maintenance is spent by Qatar. And here you go, he goes and attacks the same people whom he sent his own, the security intelligence, the chief of the negotiators, went to Qatar and to discuss with the Hamas leader how to end this war. So how can the world buy this argument? I'm really puzzled to understand. And the irony of the matter, Nirupama, that it is the American who allowed Qatar to open an office for Hamas inside Qatar and Doha with the blessing of Israel Netanyahu. And Netanyahu, by the way, there's a case against him in Israel because he siphoned $50 million out of the money that Qatar funded to Hamas inside Gaza Strip. And that is the case where that's why he continued with the war, because he will go to jail and his political career will end. So therefore, they are using now Qatar as a pretext that they are attacking Hamas because they don't want to reach to a negotiation. The negotiation in Qatar reached to a point where Hamas was agreeing to the ceasefire that had been submitted by the United States and by the mediator Qatar and Egypt. But at the end of the day, Netanyahu said there is no question of ending this war. I am winning the war. He went and attacked the 7 Arab capitals without even listening to the voices of the American and to the world. So when you have Rubio going to Qatar, he's just going to give them assurances. He's not going to do anything. And definitely the Abraham Accord has been shelved by most of the Arab capital because Israel is not to be trusted. Nobody going to trust neither the Israeli nor the American. And I think there's a changes in the Arab countries, especially in the Gulf country, to divert their dependence on the United States for any security arrangement.
So when you talk about the Abraham Accords, there was an expectation from yesterday's meeting called by the Emir of Qatar between the Arab countries and the Islamic countries. The Arab Islamic Conference, it was called. It was an emergency meeting, and there was an expectation that here they would announce that the 5 countries that have signed the Abraham Accords would actually break off from the accord. But they haven't done that, have they?
Well, they have not done it that, but I think there are lots of pressure, for public pressure on them, and definitely they will not go and normalize this relation. And I think boycotting Israel is one of the issues they have already stated in the final resolution of this OIC summit. And beside also, most of the country, most of the leaders will not dare now publicly to say that, yes, we are going for normalization with Israel, even with the American pressure, even with the Trump in power, that he's applying this pressure. The attack on Qatar is unprecedented. It is an opened the Pandora box for the region, and people saying right now, what next? Who can be next? And Israel is not hiding its intention. It said they will attack anywhere. I think Qatar will now face the music, Turkey, then will follow by Egypt, because Israel's plan is not to have any kind of a danger of its own security, because their security doctrine have been changed after the 7th of October also, that they feel they're to continue the expansion policy in the region, where the American president, if you remember, he was looking at the map and said, look at Israel, is too small, it has to expand. How can a mentality of a colonized country called United States speak of a civilization existed and the whole civilization came from West Asia, to give a country which is unknown, unwanted in the region, expansion at the cost of the neighbor? They have already secured 650 square kilometers of Syria. They are going to attack Lebanon. They are going to attack Iraq. So what exactly the plan of the United States? Are they continue with the colonization policy by promoting Israel in the region? I think Egypt and the Gulf country and Turkey now are watching the Israelis and the American intention in the region. And I don't think it's going to be a smooth runaway for the United States and the region anymore. It's going to be very tough because, as I said, America has been isolated diplomatically, not because of the tariff that the American president is carrying, because of the bully nature of the United States that continue to make Israel first and not America first.
So one of the things that has been said about the Arab countries is that, while they make these noises about Israel, as they have done yesterday, they've shown great solidarity. Everybody showed up. They've all condemned the attack on Qatar. They are unable to actually stand up to Israel, or they are unable to stand up to the US, and also the leadership of these states is very fickle. They are more interested in their own their own continuation, the existence of their own dynasties, or their kingdoms or their emirates, rather than actually do anything for the Palestinian cause. And that is, in fact, held to be one of the reasons why Israel has come so far in its in doing what it is doing now. Would you say that assessment is correct?
Well, to a large extent, yes, I fully agree with you. And I think when Indian writers have written many years ago that Israel is the dagger in the heart of the Arab world, and they have created this. Actually speaking, and I belong to the region where I see my country is totally destroyed and daily bombing by the Israelis, despite the fact that the regime has been removed forcibly by different forces supported by Israel itself, and still continue to bombard Syria day and night to make sure that Syria does not exist or stand on its feet. Give me a very clear indication that, yes, the survival of Israel, to be honest with you, is depending on two issues. One is the American support and the West support, which is unbluntly continue blindly supporting Israel without any reverse or remorse, what we call feeling of guilt that the human are being killed. And the second most important point for me is the betrayal of the Palestinian caused by the Arab leaders. This is the issues where Palestine have lost it is, including their own government, including their own leaders who have cheated the Palestinians, who have been making the Palestinians suffer because of our stand. The problem with the Arab world, Nirupama, is that they don't think that the danger is coming to them. They would always think that we are far away, we don't have border with Israel. Okay, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, these are the immediate contact country. But when it comes to now attacking Qatar, tomorrow you will go to Tunisia. You already attacked flotilla in Tunisia with the drone, and you will go tomorrow to Morocco, and then you will go to Turkey, and you have already gone to Iran. So there is no capital is safe. So I think there has to be a collective stand by the Arab world. They have to wake up. It's a wake-up call for them. And I call it a wake-up, either today or nowhere in the history they can do anything.
In this regard, when you say that this is a wake-up call for the Arab states, the GCC has also made a statement yesterday. They've said that they will activate a joint defense mechanism and sort of assess their deterrent capabilities. And they've said that consultations are already underway among the militaries of the GCC. And a meeting of the Unified Military Command is to take place soon in Doha. And this has happened only twice before, in my understanding. It happened once in 2011 during the Arab Spring, when again the US allowed what is happening in the region to continue. And before that, I think it was in 1991 when Iraq invaded Kuwait. So what is the significance of this defense mechanism, and what military prowess does it have to protect these countries or to do anything else about what Israel is doing?
Yes, I think they are now reviving this what you call the coalition's defense strategy to defend themselves. But the fact of the matter remains that the problem with the Gulf countries, they put all their eggs in the American basket. After the British were considering the GCC as the custodian of the United States and Britain, I think the United States have taken full advantage of the liberation of Kuwait by putting all the military bases in all the Gulf countries, and therefore the Gulf countries depending on the United States for their security. There is no security arrangement except for the United States, and also where there is no weapon. Most of the weapon and ammunition comes from that part of from United States. So I don't think they will be in any position even to use their own guns against Israel, because even when they try to, process or to try to operate the AWACS in Saudi Arabia, they always say not toward the Israelis. You can have it toward Libya or toward Iran, but nothing toward Israel. So therefore, we know what American, when they sell weapons, what conditions they give you and they give others. Even the Malaysian Prime Minister, former Prime Minister, he said, we wanted to fly the F-16 and they said you need the code from the United States. So he said it's just only for public domain or for a public parade that we can play the F-16 on the air. So I think this is one of the messages. But I am sure that most of the Arab countries, yes, they are fully now aware that they should also have an alternative of weaponizing themselves, arming themselves, and strengthening themselves, because United States is no more the sole dependent for them on banking on the United States to be their own sole supportive of this region. I think there are regional power which has emerged, like India is one of the power where they can have some sorts of security arrangement, like Russia is also, like China. All these countries have been now in a position to replace the United States. But will they be able to do it? I think if the United States does not take a strong position, is not even reprimanding Netanyahu for this operation by Trump did not happen. It's a clear indication that the United States have given the green signal to continue and does not respect neither a partner nor an ally. I think the Arab have to recognize and the world have to recognize that the United States does not have a partner, does not have an ally, and this is what we say they follow their own interests.
I'll come back. You spoke about India, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But I just want to go back to the Arab states. What role can Saudi Arabia play, actually? Because it is the most powerful country in that region. Qatar, yes, I mean, it was punching above its size, and it was in the Afghan Taliban talks. It was mediating between Hamas and Israel, and it's been a very influential state in the region. But Saudi Arabia is really where the power is. What is expected of Saudi Arabia at this time?
I think Saudi Arabia is a very important question you raise, and I think Saudi Arabia is feeling the heat right now, because Israel's plan is to chop 1/3 of Saudi Arabia into the greater Israel plan, which they proposed, and they're displaying it at the Knesset and even publicly now that this is the border of Israel. So I think the Saudis recognize and understand the danger coming toward their door. So therefore, they still can play, and no doubt about it that Saudi Arabia have the major role in the Middle East and in the Islamic world, and they are very influential. I wanted to draw your attention. You remember when Qatar was isolated by the Gulf state, and Qatar was, isolated, and they wanted to attack and change the regime.
There was an embargo on Qatar.
Yes. And now you can see the whole world is rallying behind Qatar. Does it give you any sense what's going on in the region? I think what the United States and Israel are planning to do is to change the regime of the Gulf country. And that is the danger to the monarch. And Qatar is the first example.
Let's talk for a minute about what Israel is planning. Apparently, they're planning a ground invasion of Gaza City. Does Marco Rubio's statement that no more negotiations are now possible, is that to be seen as a go-ahead for this invasion, for this ground invasion that Israel was waiting for? Can the Arab states prevent this from happening? And what does a ground invasion actually right now achieve for Israel?
Look, I mean, the United States have made this position very clear from day one on the attack on Gaza. And even the President Trump said he wanted to make Gaza Rivera. He wanted to have this is people land without people. He is talking of making it into a resort, of calling of tourism destination, and he had already stated. So Israel is nothing but implementing what is in his dream land he is playing. When the Golan was annexed by Israel, the Syrian Golan, and he recognized Israel accessions of the Syria annexation of the Syrian Golan, which is occupied, and UN Security Council resolution till date is against the annexation of the Syrian Golan. He was given a place or platform that it is an apartment or villas of Trump villas or building in the so he is a property dealer. He does not understand beyond the real estate business. So he thinks that this is a way of achieving what he has done in Gaza. It's already clear that Gaza is a history, and Palestinian in Gaza will be a history, even if they have to kill maximum number of Palestinians in Gaza. And there, as I said, either you leave or you die. There's no way to leave, so they are dying. They are killing not less than 100 every day, according to UN agency and everybody, because they don't allow journalists even to go inside, because they don't want you to show the genocide. What Rubio has done by this visit is giving the green signal to Israel, annex the West Bank. Because for Israel now, it's West Bank, is Jerusalem. It's nothing to do with Gaza. Gaza is already, the whole world say, okay, justified Israel genocide in Gaza. The West Bank, if they taking and they're telling the Palestinian Authority to empty their headquarters and their offices from the area, what does it mean? That they don't even recognize the Palestinian Authority. There's no more Oslo. There is no more. So the plan is already on the table. Take it or leave it. There's no way out. So that's why the American does not have anymore the carrots and the stick. They have only the stick. And American president say America first, but when it comes to West Asia, he say Israel first. So Israel dominance, hegemony, militarily, politically, economically, has to continue, because that is part of the colonization they have started at the first day. They have nothing to do with the Jews, by the way. We are Semite. They are Semite. We survived for centuries together. We didn't have a problem with the Israelis. Yahudis, you're living with us. We were living. My neighbor, we used to sit down and drink coffee every day. What was the problem? We didn't have a problem. It just when the colonized world wanted to create a division within the Arab world, they created the state of Israel. That is what we are saying. You wanted to live with us in peace? Have a state of the Palestinian next door. You have, according to UN Security Council resolution. Nobody wanted to talk of international community. Nobody wanted to talk of a two-state solution. What you want us to do? I mean, you continue being bombarded and killed and raped, and you wanted to say because you have brought for me 2,500 years ago that this was your land looted by you were kicked out of your land. Hello, Jericho is 11,000 years old. Where the people were surviving? It's a civilization. You cannot kill civilization. That is my message. Even when you talk of civilization, we are the civilized people of the Mesopotamia. Understand that we will survive. I am still optimistic, despite the fact that it's a pessimistic scenario and geopolitical change is taking so much. But I believe that we are a civilized nation. Once your civilization exists, such kind of created state cannot take over.
You've been based in India for a very long time, and India was among the earliest to recognize Palestinian statehood. It was back in the 70s, India allowed Palestine to have an embassy. The PLO opened an embassy in Delhi. But India's stand has changed. Some people say it has evolved, but there's been a very noticeable shift from that all-out support and solidarity with the Palestinians to one that is now a balancing act between Israel and Palestine. How do you see this shift personally, and as a journalist, as an Arab journalist who has been based here for such a long time?
Well, I think I have been accused many times of being a pro-India when it comes to the position of the Palestinians. I think India was among the first countries in the world to recognize Palestine as a state. As you said rightly, they opened the embassy here, and I was very much involved in the early days of the Palestinian when they have come and opened for them the embassy here. That's what was India's position. That was India's continued support of the Palestinian cause. India, the people are not understanding the changes. I mean, the pragmatic face of Indian policy does not mean that India is willing to see only Israel state and leave the Palestinian aside. That's what the Indian authority have been saying it for years. Yes, there are changes. There are resentment in the Arab world. But as I say, I don't want India to be more Arab than the Arabs. Why we talk of India when we have the Arab country normalizing relations with Israel without even addressing the Palestinian cause? So I think India is trying to do a balancing act. We wanted India to be more active, more proactive in the region for two reasons. A, because India kept an equidistance with all the stakeholders and also have a good relation with all. So India, if was asked to be a mediator, I think it was the best candidate for us and the ideal candidate for the rest of the Arab world and the world that they can find a solution. But are they seriously looking for a solution? I think India is distancing itself from the West Asia for two reasons. A, because of the proximity to the right state and because of the proximity to Israel. And Israelis definitely have a good relation with India, no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, India interest has to be seen. India food security, India oil security, Indian diaspora security, its main concern for the Indian government more than the relation with Israel. And I think these are the issues should be put on top priority because any instability in the region, the three issues of the India will be the first loser in all the fronts. So I think India has to play a role, international community, in the UN agencies and the arena of any platform that there has to be a solution, a peaceful solution, no more wars. Has to end. I think these are the issues where Indian government are trying to have a balancing act. But as the Americans said, you cannot have still walk like a duck, whether you are with the Eastern or the Western bloc. I think India will reach to a stage and recognize that the danger is not only coming from from it against Israel or against the Arab country, because once you start attacking this, and I take always advocate this point, the extremism, the fundamentalism, that terrorism will spread from inside Palestine into the Jiangping in China and Uyghur, because most of these organizations and the hardcore militias which have been trained are going to create sabotage and revival of terrorism, where the American actually and the West have been using terrorism as a tool to achieve their political objectives. So India has to see where interest lies and ensure there should be peace in the region and war should be put to an end with the Palestinian state coexisting side by side with the Israeli.
You talked about how India must play a role at the United Nations and, internationally it should take the lead. But we saw that India abstained on so many resolutions on a ceasefire in Gaza over the last 2 years. So how do you expect India now to move forward on playing a role that will actually put pressure on Israel and get it to draw back from from its war plans for Gaza and for the expansion of its settlement in West Bank?
Well, I think there are many countries in the world they can show their solidarity with the Palestinian. When you stand with the Palestinian, by the way, you don't stand because you wanted to be a pro-Palestinian or anti-Israel. This is the terminology being used in the West, and it has been washed away. What you are doing is you're supporting humanity. India understands the humanity very well. India understands the suffering of the Palestinian, like many other capital currently is doing. What you can do, you can show some sort of solidarity, not only by sending aid to the Palestinian, by even stopping the military supply to Israel, by giving some kind of a message to the Israelis that yes, we have good relation with the Arab world. We have a relation with the Palestinian. We have people living in West Asia. They are in danger, and we wanted you to put an end. I think certain steps. The question should be ask the Indian government on these issues. I am not in a position to answer Indian government, but I'm sure there are people in South Bloc who wanted to raise these issues and ensure at least you should keep distance and at least play low profile at the current scenario if you don't want to show solidarity with the Palestinians.
Just keeping to India for a second, after Qatar was attacked, India uh, issued a statement, and Prime Minister Modi, he condemned the bombing in Qatar as an attack on its sovereignty and so on. But there has been, but India could not even name Israel in that statement. So, don't you see how constrained India is in expressing any, in playing any role in this whole conflict?
Well, as I said, I'm speaking of the Arab street, Arab capitals, which they have feeling that there's a sort of resentment against India position. And I have been trying to convey to my Indian friends that, look, let's see where your interest lies. It's not lying with the 10,000 or 100,000 laborers inside Israel that they are promoting or wooing you to take them to work there and fight against the Palestinians, because even they expelled the Indian, the Israelis, by the way, who have joined the army there to kill Palestinians. So therefore, we understand the sentiment in the Israeli themselves against India, which nobody focusing on that. Anyway, that is a separate issue India has to recognize. My point here is that you have 8.5 to 9 million Indians living in the Gulf country. You have $75 billion annual revenue comes to India. You are 60% of your oil come from the area. You have 14 million Indians visiting the region every year. So do you think that does not give you an upper edge that this is your interest lies with the Arab world? Nobody say you can have relation with Israel. It is an open market for selling arms. Everybody can buy arms from anybody. Arm is not only the criteria to have a good relation. You can have a good relation with the Israel, it's fair enough, but should not be at the cost of the Palestinians. And India has to recognize this, and that's what the Indian government has to be more proactive. Look at the Prime Minister. He visited most of the Arab capitals, and he will be awarded the top award from all these leaders. Does it give you a message? Does this give you a message that we have a huge or attach lots of bond to India relation and a good relation with India, and we respect India's sovereignty and independence? You want us to fight with you against terrorism? You consider yourself a victim of terrorism? We show solidarity with us also. It's not that only because you accuse OIC, you accuse certain Arab capitals that against the pro-Pakistan. Come out from this shell and speak of your own interests openly, and let the public understand that Israel lobby, if they are going to create some sort of anti-Arabs or anti-Islam in India because of their own vested interest, as not because of the interest and the bond between India and the Arab world, which nobody can touch it, by the way. And I think the Indian government will recognize with time to come where their interest is actually, and where the strengthening of relation has to be revived.
Just going back to the war in Gaza, Israel's war in Gaza, apparently there's going to be a meeting during the United Nations General Assembly, which begins next week. There's going to be a meeting on the war on Gaza, co-hosted by France and Saudi Arabia. To do what? I mean, what do you think is going to happen if this meeting takes place, and what is the objective now?
I think the world have recognized that there is no way out, that the continuous support and giving the pretext for Israel to continue their genocide against the Palestinians because of what happened on the 7th October. Let us give little bit deep introspective into the history, and give also the benefit of doubt to the Palestinian people who are at the receiving end. It's nothing to do with the militant group. It's nothing to do. These are resistance to occupation, to colonization, and that has been charted in the United Nations Charter and international law, that you have the right to defend yourself. But having said that, I would say even the United States, and even the French and the European and the Arab country have recognized that it's a time we should also put globally on the table that the Palestinian issue is not only what from the Israeli versions. We have also the Arab version, and we have been calling. You remember in 2000 when we had the Arab Summit meeting in Beirut, we came with the plan, the Arab plan. It is King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia has come. that we are ready to normalize the relation with Israel, provided they give a Palestinian state of existence. And it was totally rejected by the Israelis. I think if there is a pressure now internationally on Israel, and also the public of Israel have been resenting against Netanyahu. Netanyahu knows that his political survival is to continue wars in the region, and also because the moment he stopped the war, his political career is at the receiving end, and he will end up. So therefore, he wanted to make sure he can apply more pressure on the Palestinian, expand the war in the region, go back to Iran, go now next to Turkey, and annex more territories of Syria and Lebanon, because he thinks that this is how he gained popularity inside Israel. But in popularity inside Israel does not give you the upper hand that the international community is watching you, is in spite of the fact that the United States is still supporting Israel. But at the end of the day, I think the people will recognize, and as I have been watching, most of the capitals in the world have been demonstrating against the genocide, against the inhuman behavior, against the famine they created inside Palestine. It's a high time where the world has to unite and put an end to this catastrophe.
There's so much more to discuss on this issue, but I'm afraid that's all the time that we have right now. Dr. Waiel Awwad, thank you so much for your time and for your views and insights on this particular subject.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.